we get into the video, I wanted to share a special tool that David and I have been using for over 2 years to manage our inventory on Amazon. The tool is called SoStocked, and it is a very powerful tool. It's designed specifically for inventory management. If you're in a physical products business selling on Amazon, you need to be in stock, especially with the inventory restrictions lately. This tool is incredibly powerful. If you're having trouble with inventory management, this might be a tool to help you. SoStocked is partnered with Firing Demand, and they've offered our guests, our listeners, a 30-day free trial. So click the link in the video description to get 30-day free trial. On to the video.
Welcome, everyone, to the Firing Demand podcast. On today's episode, we are joined by Narek Vardanyan, the founder and CEO of Prelaunch.com and TCF, a crowdfunding mechanism. At Prelaunch, Narek helps creators and businessmen understand whether their product will have success in the market or not before actually producing it. They have been doing this for more than 5 years and have helped over 1,000 creators validate their ideas at an 80% accuracy rate. Narek has recently been featured in popular media outlets such as EO Fire, the $100 MBA show, and Bloomberg. So we are incredibly grateful for him to take time to be a guest on the Firing Demand podcast. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So to start off the show, can you please share with our listeners a little bit about your background and your path to becoming the founder and CEO of Prelaunch.com?
So I founded this company, TCF, which was a marketing agency. It first started from a book, then it grew to the agency, then we started to provide marketing, consultancy, services. Then we understood that, the more we consult, they never, like people who were advising, they never take it into account the way that we would like to. So it started management company. So we started to manage the crowdfunding campaigns. It became pretty popular and actually it grew up to become a pretty viable ecosystem and one of the most popular agencies in the industry. And throughout the time, as we were becoming more popular, we were getting more products, more samples that we needed to work with. And as we were working on a percentage-based basis, we needed to work only with the best products. So they raised millions of dollars and we would get bigger commissions. And so I remember like in the beginning of this journey, I was entering into a room and there were like many products on the table and I was the biggest expert in the room and with the most experienced background. So I was picking up an item and throwing everything else to throw out the window and the whole team was starting to working on these products. And then it turns out that, the one that I picked was not the best one. And like in most of the cases, we were failing. And we were seeing that the ones that we didn't pay attention to were like some really good products out there. So we thought like, what's the best way to understand which products has bigger potential and which ones don't? And we tried a lot of stuff. We tried research departments. We tried to, surveys. We tried all the conventional methods and nothing really worked. So then we came to this reservation model and understood that, people need to have this skin in the game and provide this commitment that they really want to buy the product. And that's the best validation ever. So this is how it grew and then became a separate company. And then we launched Prelaunch.com to help everybody else because we saw that, most of the entrepreneurs, even big and small companies, are suffering from it.
Okay, excellent. And so want to jump right into it. And so, Narek, can you explain to the listeners, I guess at a high level, why product validation is so important? And why do a lot of entrepreneurs like get it wrong, like can't figure it out? Can you share with the audience?
Yeah, so basically because, validation is so important and there's this founder bias. When you have this idea and you're so attached to that idea and you think that you are, the next Steve Jobs, what you're thinking about is genius. Sometimes it is, but most of the cases it's not. We even have this funny video where a guy is taking a shower and he had this idea that he thinks is genius. And right after the shower, he goes and starts, selling the house, everything else and putting that into the product, which fails eventually. And I've seen this a lot. Been working with entrepreneurs who have been like literally getting loans for their houses, for their cars, for everything they have, and putting it into the products, which was absolutely not validated and was just an idea that they are attached to, and they've been spending so much time and spending so much energy on it. And it's not only about money, and actually the money is kind of secondary in here, but you're like spending your life on something, and you need to be sure sure that you're spending your life on something important, on something that makes sense. And the founder bias doesn't allow many people to objectively assess the viability of the product in the markets. And it's really, really hard. It's the more expertise you get, it still doesn't help. Like I'm like speaking with many big enterprise companies. We have an advisor from Samsung, and I can tell you that even in enterprise companies, even in most of the famous companies that you guys know, problem is not solved. And if they can't forecast the future, they can't clearly assess the viability of products. The aspiring entrepreneurs and startups definitely can't. So this is why it's so important to go to your customers as soon as possible, the soonest that you can, and see whether they are ready to pay for it. And it is really important to not just go to your friends and to your mom and just ask what they think about it, but get real commitment. And this is why this pre-launching model helps a lot. So you clearly see that people are ready to even put some small amount, $1, $2, etc. But that shows their commitment, their real commitment. Then only then you can understand that you're into something, and then you can build with them, involving them into the production process, and then confidently move forward, I'd say.
You've obviously worked with a ton of entrepreneurs, and I'm curious what your thoughts are on this. Why do people get stuck on an idea and kind of like put blinders on? What is it about mankind that has this flaw?
I think psychologically it might be tied into just getting rejected. So nobody wants to be rejected, and some people are just not ready for it. And you want to be in the comfort zone. You want to stay in your comfort zone, and just where it's warm, where nobody's rejecting you, where you're working into something, and maybe you'll succeed. And you're reading all these successful stories about Mark Zuckerberg, about Elon Musk, etc., like all these successful entrepreneurs, and you think that it's that easy. It's just an idea, and hopes up in your head, and it might work, and you'll become a billionaire. And anybody who tells you the opposite is becoming kind of not your friend. Kind of you want to unfriend them because they're kind of telling you something opposite. So psychologically, I think it just related with not being rejected, just getting the right type of feedback. When you are okay with that, when you start to kind of confirm to yourself that this is for your good, and even the rejections and even small failures may lead to something really big. If you really study the ways of the entrepreneurs and how it works, it will become a natural process. You'll like being rejected, and you'll learn a lot from it.
I really like that perspective, and you're right. No one wants to be wrong, and no one wants to think that they have bad ideas. Right. I really, really like that perspective. So I'm curious, out of, say, 100 products that are brought to prelaunch.com, what percentage of those are great ideas? What percentage of them are, kind of killed? And which one of them, like how many of them are kind of in the middle? Can you talk about that breakdown?
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. So I would say 50% are bad ideas. So like 50% in most of the cases are rejected with the metrics, and the recommendation is just not move forward with that, and just save your money, save time, and just come back with something else. There's a really big portion which continuously works on the product. So we have many cases where the product transforms and becomes something very different, something they might change the name, they might change the material. So it's becoming just another product, I would say. We have a couple of successful cases that founders, they didn't just give up, and with every iteration, and this is why pre-launch is great, by the way. So it's just not just binary one-time validation, and figuring out what metric and what factor is not working, what are your weaknesses, and if you're willing to spend time and money on improving those weaknesses, it may take even years. So I would say out of this another 50%, maybe 45%, they are these continuous validation processes where they continuously start working on the product, and eventually they might or they might not find something really good and that fits into the markets. And then 5% are great ideas, and then 1%, as it's probably everywhere, are like outstanding and excellent ideas.
Very nice. I have one more question on this. I'm going to kick it over to Ken. The 50% that are bad ideas, what are some common themes that come up in those? Like, are there any like themes that you've observed that are consistent amongst the products that do not get validated?
I would say, many times founders are experiencing some kind of problem. So there are a couple of things. So some founders are experiencing the problem and it's super unique to them. And they think that, it's a problem and then everybody is ready to pay for it. It still might be a problem, actually, but people should be willing to pay for that problem, right? So that's the nuance of a good product and a bad product. And many are coming without validating that hypothesis, I would say, or coming to validate that hypothesis, whether people are willing to pay that problem. Sometimes it's so niche that it's just not scalable, and economically it doesn't make sense to invest so much money for the molding, for the production, to just bring it to the market, right? So it just financially is not consistent at the end of the day. Some others, that is also a common bias, I would say, they see the problem happening elsewhere, but they don't have anybody in the team who have really experienced that problems. So they didn't really talk to the customers. People were suffering from something literally, and as of that, they don't really understand the psychology and the real needs and wants of their target groups. So they build something, they think it's great, they think, they would like the functionality, the colors and everything else, and they hope that, it has a really great potential, but turns out that it's not.
Interesting. Yeah, that definitely helpful. So before I get into my question, I want to share with the audience a little bit something that I've learned along the way. And Eric, you mentioned it earlier, is you said it's like, founders issue or founders problem, and that asking your friends and family about something is not a good idea, because what I call a yes man, they're just going to tell you what you want to hear. They're not going to be honest, and they're probably not going to maybe even know what you're doing, what kind of space you're in or anything. And so for the listeners out there, so David and I, we bounce ideas back and forth. So randomly on a Saturday night or a Sunday morning, I'll get a text from David that says, "Hey, I just found this crazy product. This is really cool. Check it out." And, I would say maybe 80% of the time when I send those to David and when he sends them to me, it's an immediate let's check it out, or oh, maybe. And so I think step one for all the solopreneurs listening, get someone you trust, someone that's not just going to tell you yes all the time, and ask them about your idea, because Nerek's hit that on the nail. It's like, well, you get founders that you get all excited and jacked up when you find something, and so you need someone to say okay, take a step back and catch your breath. This is maybe you're going off the rails. I say that's step one. Two. So Nerek, to your question is, what are the specific metrics? If you could pick one or two metrics that obviously validated thousands of products, and so what are one or two metrics that people should be aware of or should really validate before even moving forward with money?
I would say, just coming to your point, which is very right, I would say even before building the product or before building something, you need to validate the need. You need to validate whether people just obviously need that problem to be solved and are ready to pay for it. And one thing that I would recommend is to read the book, which is called Mom's Test. It's a kind of famous book. It's about to not just go to your mom and ask her about the opinion, and you'll obviously get wrong if she loves you. And in that book, the author says some specific type of questions that you should ask, where you will get some valid answers. And those kind of questions are to not ask something about the future, because people are very biased about the future and obviously they don't know about the future, but ask questions about their past, ask about the facts. Did you buy something similar, or did you search on something similar? Did you try to replace this problem? How did you try to solve this problem, etc.? So asking these kind of questions about their past and about their behavior will give you some really important insights to understand how important is this problem. Did people put some efforts to solve it, or they just, they can live with the problem still exists there, right? So first of all, when you validate the need of it, then you go and you start working on a solution. And then whenever you have this prototype, it's not even a prototype, we call it a pretotype. So it should be a bit even one step ahead. Some people mix it and they just go to their customers sometimes when the whole production is ready, but even in the best cases, they go when the prototype is ready. It's late, we think. You need to go when the prototype is ready, which means that your product is about 60-70% close to the final. You have the design, you have the the idea, the description, the functionality, the shape, the colors, you have at least the 3D model, and you have maybe a very shitty prototype, So that you start a validation campaign. And the best way to start a validation campaign, now coming to your question on what metrics you should pay attention to, whether you're doing it on prelaunch.com or you're doing it, maybe on your own website, we found that it's great to make it a 2-page validation campaign. So on the first page, you showcase the idea, the concept of the product, and you have this subscribe to learn more button there. And then on the second page, you showcase the price of it, and you say, if you put down $1 or $2, you will get a 20% discount if this product releases into the market, right? And so you drive some traffic, and you see if people subscribe on the first page, it means the concept is kind of validated and people are willing to learn more about this concept. And then if people are giving this, $1 or $2, it means they're ready to pay for it and wait until you go and start the production. And then what pre-launch does, it's kind of, takes the data, analyzes it, compares it with the metrics, with the benchmarks, and gives you some very specific guidance on how well you're doing based on the past experience of similar type of products of the same price and category range, and gives you understanding on how well you're doing on your product performance and who your customers are and why they're buying your products.
Okay. One follow-up question I have on this one, and this is something that I learned from a friend of mine on pre-launch. I'm curious, do you run paid traffic to the site, or how do you get the traffic? And the reason I'm asking is a friend of mine used a similar site to launch a product, and they had shared it with all of their friends and family. Like, hey, I'm not going to mention the site, but I think we all know what it is. Hey, go there and support my projects, and I've got all this. And they raised all the money they needed, launched the product, and it didn't do well. And so curious on the traffic you get to the site, where's it coming? Anonymous?
That's a great question, actually. And many companies, and even big companies, are using crowdfunding to launch their products or using their website or other platforms to see the viability in the market. So there are a couple of problems with that. So in crowdfunding, for example, it's kind of developed for crowdfunding. So it's for fundraising, basically. And it's a one-time shot. You just either succeed there or you don't. So you can't just iteratively kind of test the idea and improve it along the way, right? And one bias that is with crowdfunding platforms, with the successful campaigns we see, is that mostly in crowdfunding, it's these early adopters or enthusiasts who are making these campaigns, who are ready to pay the full price, like a couple of $1,000s, and know that, there will be delays, there will be some, there's a risk even of not receiving the product. So you need to be really enthusiastic about this product, right? And then when after the successful campaign, you go to the market and you start to sell into the general public, you see that, the behavior differs from this platform behavior, right? So this is one bias that you need to understand, that a successful campaign in any platform doesn't mean success in the whole population or success in the bigger market. So there is this scalability issue. And what we do on pre-launch, we drive traffic from different sources. Like we have the organic sources, we have paid sources, and we're analyzing the consistency and the weight of each traffic into the product. So we try to analyze and give and generalize it into the bigger population by trying to smartly understand how well this product will perform into the market, knowing that there are early adopters, there are early majority, there are some late laggards, people who are coming too late, etc. And we have some indicators to identify some people. So say if you have 1,000 people who reserved your products, we'll be able to tell you that 900 out of these are enthusiasts, and it will mean you have a very niche products, right? You might have a successful business, but it's not scalable. And if it's vice versa, it might be a very scalable product, and you can pour as much money as you want, and you will see great metrics because we got feedback, we got understanding that people who are coming for the first time, they're just buying it without thinking about that. So there are these kind of nuances to be taken into account when you really want to understand like how well this product will perform.
Okay, excellent. David, over to you.
So as we mentioned, Ken and I sell on Amazon, and oftentimes when we're looking at whether we want to launch a product, we'll look at the number of reviews kind of as a measuring stick for competitiveness, like can we catch up? We also like to look at search volume. Curious what your thoughts are on that. Is there anything that we're missing out when we're vetting products?
Some type of products, I think you can get a really great insights with just analyzing the market and Amazon. And those would be mostly conventional products or products that are easily replicable or easily you can make them. right? So you can, or maybe you can just add a couple of features, understand what's they're missing, and just go into the market. But it's mostly useful to understand the demand, to understand like what people are missing. And if you truly want to come with something innovative, then it will be really hard, because like only analyzing the demand and only analyzing the problem, it doesn't answer to the question on whether people will like my version of as a solution, right? So there are a lot of categories in Amazon where you can do really great by just understanding the weaknesses of your competitors and just trying to fulfill them. But we saw on pre-launch, in most of the categories that are succeeding on pre-launch are something that are really innovative. They don't have a precedence, and sometimes you can't even find direct competitors in the market, and you just want to understand like how people will perceive this. You're creating new category, you're creating something totally new, and these kind of cases, then you need to understand how people will perceive it when they see it.
Very nice. I share a really quick story with you on why I always look at search volume. So I, in my previous life, was a CPA and studied for the CPA exam. And I would always drink my morning cup of coffee and study. Like I'd look at my study guide. What I did, I launched a product that was a coffee cup that had a very curated list of all the equations that you needed to memorize for the test, which is a new product. Like there wasn't anything like that. However, when you look at search volume for CPA study guide mug, it is 0. There is no one looking for that. And then even CPA study guide, there wasn't a ton of search volume for that either. And so that was like a hard lesson learned. There was a ton of time that went into that product development, and I have about 200 of them sitting in my basement. Based on your experience, and I'm sure we have listeners right now that want to start a business, they are hung up on, I don't know what to sell. And so I'm curious, what would be your advice to that person? What are maybe some areas that they should look, or what are some common themes you've seen in successful brands or products?
Yeah, I think to start with assessing the market trends is really important to understand whether it's a kind of increasing trend or decreasing trend. Because if you end up making something really successful in a decreasing market trend, eventually you will become a very small business, even if you are monopoly or you're the number one guy in your industry, right? So if you're picking the right market, the market will amplify you, will pick you up. So starting something new is really, I would suggest to start from analyzing the trends. And there are many ways to analyze the trends. You can just look at the Google Trends. There are many tools and many extensions which tells you what's happening in Reddit, what kind of subreddits are getting some more popular, what people search, what people ask for, etc. Then I would try to understand and assess what kind of problems are out there by assessing the reviews, understanding what people are complaining most of about, checking the search volume, as you said. Then after that, you need to have enough data to come with a solution, right? And if you're also talking to, and that's also mandatory, to talk to some people who are suffering from these kind of problems that would pay for it, to not work in an isolation. Build a prototype and just expose it to those people and see what they think. Just don't invest too much time and money working in a product to make it perfect, and then try to give this perfect version and see what they kind of think about. We call this a co-creation. Actually, this is kind of a way and a mode and some feature set that we are developing on pre-launch to get your real customers on board and start co-creating with them, right? So you're getting as many feedback, as much insights as possible from the right users. And it's very much different from the real surveys and when you go just create a Facebook group and just invite them. Because in this case, where people have this commitment, where they have this skin in the game, they really want to have something really great as a final outcome of your product. So in this case, you can trust them, you can, ask them any kind of questions you want, and you're sure that their answers are not biased, like it would be in the focus groups or surveys where people are paid to provide you yes men type of answers. Yeah, so I would say that would be the first half.
I've got a quick follow-up on that topic. And so Narek, you've helped, thousands of creators validate their products and have a very high accuracy rate, 80%, right? And so I'm curious, everything that, I've always studied and everything is for product, physical products, you want to solve a problem. And so as we think about this, in your experience of all the thousands of products that you've seen that have been successful, is there a trend in any specific direction on solving a problem now? Does it save someone time, or does it enhance their life? Like, have you seen a trend in any of those specific areas that really do well, like saving time, making their life better? Is there anything that you would kind of gravitate to as you see all the metrics of thousands of products?
Yeah, there are some certain trends that come up after COVID, some seasonally. Saving time is always trendy. So even if you're able to save like very tiny portion of time on people's life, there's a high chance of you making something viral. After COVID, I would say last year we're analyzing in these past 2 years, some security related, privacy related areas are kind of trending. So people want more privacy, want more security, and everything that's related with that. The e-mobility is a great category that is thriving again, the scooters, and then we continuously see all kind of like great scooters and great kind of commute. Yeah, that's all I can recall as of now.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah.
No, I'm always curious to kind of see what are your thoughts on, you've got a wealth of experience there. And so, yeah, no, those are super helpful. David, over to you for the...
Yeah, so on this topic of trends, Ken and I were talking about this the other day. I'm curious what your thoughts are on it. So we have probably a little bit over 1,000 SKUs in 15 different marketplaces. If you look, we have two products that are clearly number one and number two. Both of those products are what I would consider boring. And we have products that are exciting, things that people would take a picture of, share with their friends, like exciting, fun, hobby type products. However, Ken and I were talking about scientific tools the other day. Not a sexy industry, but boy, does there seem to be some good profit margin there. So I'm curious, what are your thoughts on boring versus exciting products?
Yeah, as you said, many boring products outperformed by thousands, the exciting ones. I have this presentation where I'm showing like 4 or 5 of our previous products and telling the audience, can you guess which one? One of them did $1 million sales in the first month. And in 99% of the cases, nobody guesses which product is that one. We did a validation recently on a product which is for collecting the dog's poop, and looks like a very boring product on the first sight, but it was just killing that. That was beating all the metrics, and nobody knows why till now. And that they launched, and it became like a super success in the market. While another product, so that was a helmet which was recording, that has a camera which was recording the front and rear. It has an AR screen. It has an AI kind of suggestions on where you could drive, etc. You could connect with other drivers. So it was like, a helmet fit with all these kind of functionalities that you'd love to, and it just failed because of not having enough demand, right? It turns out that people don't need that much of a functionality in something that is just needed to protect you. Kind of sarcastically, and exactly that time we had another product which was just a mask which was just covering your face, and it was just doing nothing else, and it was just a kind of cool mask and very similar to this helmet thing which was with a lot of functionality. And this mask outperformed this helmet by 5 times. So they did couple of 100,000 of sales in their first month, while the other one failed. So we see this happening all the time. It's really hard. We even betting internally, we see it all the products, and we bet which one is outperforming the others. And even internally, we most of the time we're wrong, because a very boring product might be a really good business, might have great margins, might be on a trend, might be something that people really search about. So it's not only about, creating the next shiny thing, but it's about solving a real need.
I'm glad you shared those examples with the audience, because it's definitely true. And as you say, that helmet one, I think I would be distracted. There would be too much going on if I'm supposed to be driving or riding a bike or whatever. I would be doing too many things, and so that's interesting. While we were doing research for the show, David noticed on your LinkedIn profile you had over 75 endorsements for growth hacking. Can you share with everyone why you've been noticed for growth hacking?
When I started the agency and we needed to help the founders, the creators succeed in the crowdfunding. Basically, I was the marketing guy. I was doing a lot of growth hacking, like trying to understand the easy ways on how to get what you want. And the growth hacking, I would explain that you need to just understand the rules of the game, how to break them legally, right? How to break them in a way that is not making harm of people, but you just found the shortest path into something. So there are many examples on what you can do with growth hacking. Although I'm more inclined into the growth as a continuous growth, not just one-time hack. This is more close to me now. But growth hacking is just that for example, you're just creating a Facebook ad and you see that it's blocked, and you understand why it's blocked. The algorithms cannot detect on the Facebook, and you're just getting approved. So it can start from writing the text on like using the same letters in Russian, or just changing the banner into something that the algorithms are not reading. So this kind of stuff, and also psychologically understanding what people really want and creating these kind of motives for them.
Can you share maybe one of the bigger success stories that you've had from a client at prelaunch.com?
So one of the biggest success we had is called a fuel motorcycle. So the founder of this electric motorcycle was the former Harley Davidson senior engineer, and he's a very famous legendary guy, I would say, Eric Buell. So he's also the founder of this Buell motorcycle, and there are like hundreds of thousands of motorcycle of his name. So that was a super success. They launched last year the validation. Their main goal for the validation was to understand their customers better, to understand who their customers are, because this bike is full of patented innovations. There are like 27 innovations only on this motorcycle, and they needed to understand exactly, like, deeply who the customers are, and specifically what feature they value over the others, what kind of positioning works the best for them, how different regions of US, Canada, Europe react to this kind of messaging and positioning. So it was an amazing success. We got, although the bike was $10,000 and the reservation fee was $200, we got over thousands of reservations on the platforms, and all the major media wrote about that, Forbes, TechCrunch, and everybody else. So it was a big success. But ironically, success can be a failure on the pre-launch can be a success to the creator, right? So this is how we see it. We see that if you pre-launch something on the platform and you see that metrics are telling you that it's bad and it's not improving, although you kind of failed, you succeeded because you saved a lot of time and a lot of money, a lot of nerves that otherwise will be spent in the market.
That's definitely something to I want to go over with the audience again. And so to your point, Eric, is like testing something, and if it didn't work out, that's actually a success, because otherwise, if you would have just launched that product and bought a ton of inventory, you would have lost a lot of money and time. You mentioned earlier, not only money, it's time. All your time invested in that is you could have been using it on something that actually passed pre-launch. So awesome. I want to pivot in a little bit. Can you talk a little bit about TCF and the crowdfunding, what the crowdfunding formula is?
So crowdfunding formula is this agency that helps campaigners launch their products into Kickstarter and Indiegogo. And TCF is the ecosystem that we've built around that. So it's not only the agency. We have a couple of media companies there. We recently acquired a company called Gadget Flow. It's kind of Pinterest for gadgets. So you will scroll there and all kind of innovations there, and you'll find whatever you want. It's a great website. We have this Tech I Want, which is again a media. So we're basically trying to build this ecosystem where you have all the necessary tools and platforms and knowledge to go from idea to success, right? If you have an idea, you can validate it on pre-launch, then you can go launch it to crowdfunding, then you can scale it with the Gadget Flow, with Tech I Want, then you can take it to e-commerce, then we have something else for there, like we have an influencer marketing platform called Viral Mango, etc., etc. So our goal is to help innovators, is to help creative people to succeed despite of their geographic location, despite of their financial well-being, despite of their knowledge, and to create an ecosystem where these impactful ideas will thrive. So this is what we're trying to do.
Okay, awesome. No, that sounds amazing. It's like you built an A to Z ecosystem from start to finish. So, David, anything else you want to cover before we get into the fire round?
No, let's get into it.
All right, Eric, are you ready?
Yes.
What is your favorite book?
I would say Hard Things About Hard Things by Ben Horowitz.
Okay, awesome. What are your hobbies?
Hiking and watching YouTube videos on podcasts.
Awesome. What is one thing that you do not miss about working for the man?
That's a good one. So I would say when you don't have enough impact on something, so you're working on a company and you understand that you're not that important and your decisions are not taken into account. So basically, whether you are there or you're not there, like life will go on, and you don't have this impact, you don't have this ability to change the pace of something.
Yes, excellent. That's a good one. All right, last one. What do you think sets apart successful entrepreneurs from those who give up, fail, or never get started?
As you said, entrepreneurs never give up. Their startups may fail, their products may fail, but they don't fail. They don't give up. It's just a mindset where whatever happens to you, you just don't give up. You just continue and learn from your failures. And you don't need the motivation to go from failure to failure.
Excellent answer. David, over to you to close out the show.
All right, Narek, I want to thank you for being a guest on the Firing the Man podcast. If people are interested in getting in touch with prelaunch.com, running their idea through your guys' process, what's the best way?
They just register on Prelaunch. We have a free plan so they can just test the platform, see whether it works for them or not. So they just register there or just send us a message and we can help them with the onboarding.
Very nice. Well, thank you so much for your time today and looking forward to staying in touch.
Same here.
Thanks for watching this video. If you got some value out of this, would you please hit the like and subscribe button? This is a free way to support the show and it really helps us build our audience.